Good afternoon. Welcome back. This is still the Polity, reaching you live from Abuja. I've been joined in the studio now by Dr. Mefor. He's a policy analyst, and a social scientist. He joins me now to do justice to the matter of what the government is doing, and the central bank particularly, to try and mitigate the downward spiral of the Naira as against the dollar. And we're taking a look at how also these issues affect the average Nigerian out there and possible ways forward. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
All right. The news broke about 2 days ago that the CBN is injecting, that's a word used, another $500 million to clear the backlog, or FX backlog as they call it. And the thing about it is that between two days ago and now, there have been a couple of, let's say, response by the government. Recently, we also saw the movement of some BDCs and so on and so forth. We'll get into the other things that the CBN has done, but let's start with this injecting of $500 million into to clear the backlog. What effect do you think this will have overall on making the Naira any stronger, or limiting the fall we're seeing at the moment?
It's quite worrisome what is happening to the exchange rate and the economy generally. It's been a downward spiral. Simply put, a free fall of the Naira against the dollar and other foreign exchanges. You see, yes, ordinarily, injecting as much as $500 million into the economy will naturally stimulate a kind of a better response of the Naira to what is happening to it out there. But there are problems which I am not sure that the government has been able to really tackle, or will be able to tackle, to ensure that the injection will get to the targeted points in the economy. I'll give you an example of what I mean here. The question is, what has been responsible for the free fall of the Naira? Something is responsible for it. It's not just falling for nothing. It's simply coming from the scarcity of the dollar. That is debate. It's as fundamental as that.
Scarcity of the dollar in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, you don't print the dollar, right? So you have to rely on supplies that you get from your traditional sources. Government enterprises that earn in dollars, for example, your crude export, and other aspects of the economy like the liquefied, the natural gas, and so on and so forth. The question is, how much are you getting from these? When you compare with the fact that your crude, for example, a significant percentage of that is already mortgaged, sort of, should I say, the anticipated income had already been taken in advance by the previous administration. And even the Tinubu administration is also dipping his hands into that advance payment via the crude. Whether you mortgage it to take a loan or not, you have actually taken the money in the real sense of the word. In other words, government is finding itself more and more difficult, finding it more and more difficult to really exercise itself by relying on things it can actually export to be able to earn more. And of course, other sources like Nigerians who are sending money into the economy to their loved ones and for projects they are handling in Nigeria. Such money comes to CBN.
I don't know, but perhaps just for the sake of the average viewer out there, why does more dollar in circulation help with the Naira becoming stronger?
No, but the whole thing is about exchange, between the dollar and the Naira. So the more dollar you have in supply is the more likelihood that the Naira will get strengthened. The Naira is on its own, as a matter of fact, stranded in Nigerian economy because of scarcity of the dollar. That's the simple economics. It's not really complex to understand. We need more dollar, and we don't have, and we can't print because it's not our currency. If it were the Naira, the CBN can print more Naira. Then you have more paper note, whatever that means or translates to in the actual economic indices. But the fact is that you have to rely on physical dollar that is supplied from somewhere else, particularly outside Nigeria. And I just mentioned 2 or 3 sources through which Nigeria earns the dollar, and of course other foreign exchange. But essentially the dollar, because much of what Nigerian economy does is denominated in the dollar. Like sales in crude and all that, it's all about the dollar, not the pound particularly. You know, that doesn't mean that the pound, the euro, and the yen and others don't mean anything to Nigerian economy. They do, but that is our common denominator in terms of foreign exchange. Now, that said, you know, there is one other aspect of this problem that needs to be really factored in if we have to have a full grasp of the situation to paint a complete picture that will enable an ordinary person even make sense out of the seeming miasma or nonsense, if you want to even use that word. If you look at the fact that Nigerian economy is actually dollarized, the elites are relying on the dollar. So this is creating pressure, it's creating additional pressure. What that means is that the Nigerian elites, you know, top businessmen, the politicians, prefer the dollar to the Naira.
Isn't that another form of injecting it?
They are not injecting, they are taking it away and keeping it away as a store of value. They don't want to store in Naira because the Naira is on a free fall. So the more you store in the Naira is the more your own stock is actually falling. So for the speculators, it is wiser to store in the hard currency because the value is going up. And there is a reason also why the value of the dollar against the Naira is going up. I had the CBN governor Cardoso saying that the Naira is overvalued. That's a fallacious statement.
Overvalued or undervalued?
You know, he says overvalued. Do you understand that? What that means is that the value of the Naira, where it is, even at 1,400 to 1,500 Naira to the dollar, shouldn't be that it ought to be something more than that. That is to say, the CBN governor is looking at something like $1 to 2,000 Naira. That is the simple understanding of that statement he made. Now you ask yourself.
Actually, I just a quick correction. It was the reverse. He actually said it's grossly undervalued, and that it should be 850 Naira to a dollar rather than what we say.
Now, you know how it came across to me is that we should expect further. You know, and if what you are saying is what he meant or what he actually said, well, it is good. Then he should ask himself, why is the Naira devaluing further? Do you understand what I'm saying? The basic reason is because your export is simply not there. Beyond the crude, you don't have much export. The other day I told you that the current statistics from Bureau of Public Statistics, is saying that Nigerian export is still up to 75% crude oil. Do you understand that? What that means is that your economy, in terms of export and foreign exchange earnings, is 75% dependent on the crude oil. And the crude oil you are referring to, you no longer have 100% control of it because you have mortgaged a part of it in advance. In other words, what you will earn will be to the extent of the percentage that now accrues to you based on understanding MOUs and even mortgages that the country had engaged in with some foreign counterparts and so on and so forth. What that means is that if Nigeria is producing 1,000 1,200 to 300 barrels a day, which as a matter of fact is hovering around that. What comes to Nigeria at the end of the day, it will not be more than 50% of that percentage. Do you see where the problem is? So in other words, the 75% crude dependence here now is further devalued. What that means that the physical money you will get from the sales of a crude, where you almost entirely rely on, is now more than you almost halved by all these commitments. This is a big problem. And of course, that's the reason Dangote is now entering into agreement with the US to supply the Dangote refinery with a crude. You know, is it not shocking? The reason is for what I have just said. Dangote cannot rely on APC to supply it because then APC is already committed to other people. You see where the problem is. So Nigeria produces crude oil, but cannot supply its own refineries.
Well, just to add something here, I believe I'm not really, I'll confirm these numbers, but I don't know if you recall when the conception of the Dangote refinery began. It should have been sometime 2013 or...
It's about a decade.
One might wonder, didn't the government think that at some point they would need to, let go of some of those obligations to be able to cater for some of these bigger projects?
See, Buhari's administration remains the most tragic in the nation's history. That's a fact. They were on borrowing spree. And for you to borrow, you need some kind of collateral and so on and so on. That's why they mortgaged the oil, the crude, in advance to take more loan. That's a simple truth. I challenge whoever has a contrary fact to present it. Do you understand what I'm saying? They mortgaged part of the crude that will be produced in years to come to these commitments. So they knew, of course, that Dangote will certainly need a crude. And don't forget, even Nigerian refineries that are being turned around now, Port Harcourt, for example, is supposed to have come on stream by now, will require a local supply of crude to be able to really produce. And the crude is simply not there as we speak. Don't forget the factor of theft, and of course, they say it's theft of crude oil. I don't believe it's theft of crude oil. No, it's not true. And the things must be situated in proper perspective so that people can understand. I don't believe there is any theft. I also made it clear here once that, look, no vessel enters Nigerian shores without the Navy being aware.
So what would you term what is happening?
There is official division of what is produced to interests that are well known to government. That's the truth.
There's a belief that what you speak of now has persisted across administrations.
Yes, it started all the way from the military administration. And the civilian administration inherited it, and Tinubu doesn't want to change it.
But President Tinubu and his predecessor were from the APC.
Yes.
Before that, we had the PDP. So one might wonder, is it that the structure in place to, if it exists, to facilitate this massive, if not theft, collusion?
So it's not theft.
Yes, but why is it so difficult even across governments to be stopped?
Look, listen. See, let me tell you. I established one clear premise that no vessel will enter Nigerian waters without Nigerian Navy knowing about it. In other words, the vessels that come to load the so-called stolen crude are officially allowed into Nigerian waters. Simple. So who gave the approval for the vessels to load and wait for somebody else? Let me draw your attention to something that will make my position clearer. Ask yourself, Abacha loot, is it money that was taken from Nigeria? No. Abacha loots were sales of crude oil. Sales of crude oil that part of which went to him as Nigerian head of state. Why do you think that the heads of state and presidents of Nigeria are insisting that they will be the Minister of Petroleum? It's because of all this. Because that's the only way they can keep it the way it is. They will appropriate that office to themselves. Is it not an anomaly? But that is what is going on.
President Buhari is largely seen as incorruptible.
Incorruptible,
do you think he was he would have partook in any of this, considering his reputation?
I believe that General Buhari will pass in history, right, as the most misrepresented personality in Nigeria.
How so?
He's not what he said. What he says he is. He's not. They can't be. Corruption became worse under him. Look, the kind of money we are talking about here, and you can see it from the books of the EFCC. You can see it from the books of Obaze, the one that is running the investigation into CBN and the allied organizations that fills the country of billions, if not trillions, in dollars. Do you understand that? It happened under the watch of Buhari. As Minister of Petroleum, right, up to 400,000 barrels of crude, was unofficially going to other sources, and that is what they call stolen crude. It happened for 8 years under his watch. Was he not aware? He was aware. Tom Polo showed us the pipes through which the unofficial siphoning of a crude was going out, and we all saw it. Till today, after the revelation of Tom Polo, have you heard of anybody that has been questioned about that? It's because they discovered that what Tom Polo showed us was unofficial source that has been there for decades, and that is what it is. That is the truth, and they know that. Look, let me tell you, Nigerian Brent, as our crude is called, has a DNA. What that means is that Nigerian crude can be recognized anywhere in the world as originating from Nigeria. Do you understand that? So when you say it is a matter of theft, how come that the people that steal it are able to sell it when they know the source to be illegal? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's an international cartel. They know what they are doing. And the fact remains that they don't want to stop it. And that is why Nigeria, will decide to be producing 1,200 barrels of crude every day, whereas the actual production will be up to 2,000 barrels. What happens to the balance of 500 to 700 barrels?
I think the billionaire, Mr. Tony Elumelu, made reference to this.
So I'm not the only one saying this. There is no other explanation. Why are they insisting on being Minister of Petroleum? You're the president, and you want to be the minister. If indeed there is urgency, the president should be the Minister of Defense, because that is why we have crisis. But the president would want to be the Minister of Petroleum. What are they hiding? So, to come back to what we are trying to x-ray here, you see, because we are not producing enough anymore, right, officially, because excuse me, the official production combined with the unofficial production will give Nigeria more than enough. But because they don't want to stop the unofficial production, revenue of which is going into unknown pockets. Do you understand what I'm saying? But officially allowed to go on for years, perhaps decades. Well, do you understand that? Yes. Until you combine the two. And because the political will to stop it is not there, we don't even know those who have been collecting this money and for how long this has happened.
Right. Before we move fully into the issue of anti-corruption, let me roll out another part of the CBN's move. The CBN has removed exchange rate cap for international money transfer operators.
Yes. And
basically, from what I've understood from what the economists are explaining, is that they are trying to make the market more free. That is to say that in the past, banks and others had to abide by a certain margin.
Yeah.
So when the black market says 1,500 Naira, they have to somehow maintain whatever they've gotten from I&E exchange or whatever it's called. But now it seems as though they have almost the freedom to go toe-to-toe with bureau de change operators.
Yeah.
During this, I saw one economist describe this as a double-edged sword, that it could, work out marvelously, or the reverse could be the case that the CBN governor is basically daring, the BDC operators that, I'm going to give this legal way for people to quote pretty much the same as you do, and let's see what happens. So
for me, I am with Kodoso on this one. Because if you say the whole idea is to bridge and possibly collapse the official and unofficial figures in the exchange market, this is one of the key policies that will have to be unleashed on the process and on the economy. However, there is still a problem. The problem has always been, having what we call effective control over all this. I told you already that Nigerian economy is dollarized. If you go to birthday parties, marriages, burial and stuff, you will see dollar being sprayed. It's everywhere. It's not a hidden anymore. Right? Dollar is spread. Even you see one or two ministers giving their workers lunch money in dollars. So the economy is dollarized. There is no doubt about that. And the culprits here are the political leaders. The same people that should insist that we shouldn't go this way are the ones really doing this. It's done to the point that the new Naira is also hoarded. People are buying that off. I once told you that during Christmas I had to buy 20,000 Naira new notes for 30,000. And this has been the practice. You go to banks you can't find, but there are people selling this. Well, how do they get it? They get it from the same banks. So if you look at that, you see that when Kodoso says that, look, I'm going to open this leeway, remove the caps so that there will be free competition. You understand what I'm saying? The people who will mop up the dollar that you release through that process, they are there waiting for you. They will mop it up.
So it's just going to make things even
it will make things even worse. If you release $100 billion into this economy without proper checks and balances, it will be cleaned up in less than 3 months. Because the people that need this dollar are billionaires in Naira, and they prefer to store their value. Do you understand that? They want to store their value in hard currencies. That is the major pressure the Naira is facing. And how do you check these people? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You see EFCC carry out raids on a bureau de change and all that. To what extent will that really go? The people you are dealing with, the places you go to raid, Zone 4 in Abuja here, they don't need to keep their money there all the time or all the money. So even if you go there, you cannot earn anything there. You need political will to really, get out of this quagmire. The political class will have to agree that there is need to get this done using this process, because they are the ones whipping up the Naira. Now, that is one way of dealing with it. Another way is to truly tie the promised $500 million to specific goods, specific imports. And you see, to do this is not rocket science. What you need to do is to ensure that that whoever will access any of these intervention fund has something really credible and needed in the economy to utilize it on. Machineries, for example. Machineries you want to do, you use in your industries, in agro, allied industries and so on and so forth. In other words, they will be item specific. If for example you need $1 million, you need to see the papers. Do you understand what I'm saying? The papers for which you really want to make the imports. There are papers that can be accessed, and these papers can be verified. And if I were Kodoso, I will not give you the money directly. I will pay the source. This is the look. If you don't go to this extent, you get this done. Because what they do is that they can forge some papers, and they claim that they want to import this phone, right? They will collect the physical hard currency and turn around and use and convert the money for other use. But if you pay the source, they also what I'm saying. If you pay the source, it becomes easier that you are dealing with the source, and when they know that they will not be able to easily forge such papers, it becomes a mode of control. That is one level of dealing with it. And even after the initial tranche is released, there is need to tie further releases to the same importers to evidence that they actually have utilized the other one. What in normal operations you call a retirement, of out-of-pocket expenses. You have expended this money. You have made this import. What stops the CBN from releasing their staff into the field for physical verification of these things? Even pre-destination inspection can be instigated in this process as one way of getting around it. Yes, you want to import from China, then we can send our staff to be part of this process. And like I said, pay China. Don't give them the money physically. Provide all the papers. You pay the country of origin, and once you do that, you will minimize. You may not be able to totally eliminate it, but there is a snag. The snag is that the central bank staff that ought to ensure that this prescribed process is followed will be the same people that will collude with the so-called importers and collect their share. Do you see where the problem is? What you call round tripping. What is round tripping? They will collect the physical hard currency and go to bureau de change and sell to them and collect the difference, the margin, of profit. In other words, from knowing somebody in the CBN, you are able to access physical currency, and you return to from between CBN and bureau de change, you are a billionaire. That is one taking, and that is part of what is going on in the economy.
That takes us now into corruption.
Yes.
Let's do the issue of anti-corruption. Recently, the USCC boss said they've uncovered religious sects or religious groups who are being used to launder funds for terrorism and other such issues. What do you make of this fight against corruption, and how do you think we can really get to the root of it, particularly because there is a belief that it is a systematic thing?
Of course it is.
Yes. So when you are dealing with a systematic thing, even those who are meant to fight it, as we've seen, the UFCC has had numerous scandals involving the EFCC head. It's almost as though once you accept that job, you are under some sort of ticking time bomb. But hopefully that's not the case this time around. But that being said, if it's so entrenched, because you were describing something, how you feel the government could, the CBN particularly, could ensure that there is no skullduggery while trying to maintain Naira to dollar. And then he also noted that the only reason this wouldn't work is if the CBN itself within people within. So where do we go from there? And
it's a big problem. Yeah. It's a big problem. You see, your question is precisely the reason China, as a country, I keep talking about China because of their phenomenal growth. The reason they shoot their corrupt officials. They don't have time for you in the prison. They'll tie to the stake and shoot you. That's the end of it. Until Nigeria gets to that extent, you may not really shoot Nigerians who are corrupt, but you have to be serious about the fight. Ola Koyobe, what he said about the problems he met, I'm not quite sure I understand him even. About 2 weeks ago, he said that EFCC investigators are taking bribe. And they are still there. He's appealing to those who are committing crime against the state, appealing to them to stop. What the EFCC chairman Ola Koyobe, was saying, it reminded me of what Mobutu Sese Seko said when he was president in Zaire. You know what he said? He was advising government officials to stop stealing government funds in large lumps. That means they could steal in small lumps, right? Look, we are not serious. You know your staff are taking bribe and you haven't taken them out. You are appealing to them. They will only modify what they are doing. Do you understand what I'm saying? We need to get serious about the fight against corruption, right? We need to get, we need, EFCC needs self-re-examination. They need introspection to understand that Nigerians are relying on them to get rid of corruption, because without getting rid of corruption, there will be no growth and development in Nigeria. We are relying essentially on EFCC, not even on ICPC, because that organization I don't understand. A few symbolic gestures here and there, but there it ends. Flashes, you find in the pan. But we need something really concrete and sustainable. The new EFCC chairman appears to be determined, but he's not getting his ass together. He said he's going to start with the presidency, from there to National Assembly, from there to judiciary, and then to other places. And I asked him, where is the file of the Senate President, Godswill Obroto-Abia? Yes, because the FCC told us under Bawa that he was under investigation. Do you understand that? Yeah. So, is it still a case of selective, investigation and the prosecution? So if that is the way, you will be committing a major problem against the process and against yourself. In managerial psychology, we believe that the easiest way to destroy any place, including a nation, is to have what we call differential in the reward and punishment matrix. If what they are doing is still the same old selective investigation, selective, then you haven't started. You haven't. You still feel like the rest. And like it is said, Caesar's wife must be above board, above suspicion. So if you ask yourself, what has happened to pass the EFCC chairman? How come practically all of them left that place with their heads bowed, from Ribadu, the current NSA, to Bawa, that left a few weeks ago? In the case of Bawa, very pathetic. He was detained for about 64 days, right? No, 1something days, about 134 days. Yeah, Bawa was detained, right? Yeah. Was detained, released, till today. Nobody knows the reason Bawa was detained or removed. Do you understand what I'm saying? So something is not up to public knowledge. No, he should be. Because he was a public officer entrusted with very critical assignment. We needed to know before the Magu was removed. And we brought in Salami, former president of Court of Appeal, to investigate Magu. Till today, nobody knows what happened to Magu. Nobody knows whether Amadin was guilty or not. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can see that the fight against corruption in Nigeria is clearly politicized. It's been reduced to politics. So the way Ola Owokorede is going, I didn't see much coming out of it, because he's already, one is that he's talking about investigating the presidency and National Assembly and all that, and I asked, where is Akpabio's file? There must be closure. You understand what I'm saying? Akpabio doesn't have to be guilty. But we need to, you have to tell Nigerians that, look, you see, yes, we investigated this person, clean bill of health. When we see somebody like that tomorrow, we will doff our hats. Do you understand what I'm saying? There should be in fact, every governor in Nigeria should receive a certificate. Do you understand what I'm saying? For EFCC, yes, you hang it in your house. You frame it as governors? No, past governors. All right. When they investigated and we know that you came across clean as the Western, we want to see evidence. People like that should be commended, given awards. Well, at the moment, do you understand that? But this is not what you get. The former Anambra State governor is one of those talking about Peter Obi, right? No, Mr. Willie Obiano. Good.
He's undergoing investigation.
And incidentally, Anambra is my state.
Yeah, I understand. And then we have word on the grapevine. Some persons reporting it, but there's no official confirmation that the recently outgoing governor of Kogi State,
yes,
has also perhaps is also trying to evade what could be coming in the form of further investigation. This is coming after his cousin or his nephew, who's being investigated by the EFCC, is now currently the chief of staff to the new governor. What do you make of all of these? You know, the attempts to go after some people. I saw recently an infographic of some persons who had investigations or charges against them in the past that didn't amount to anything, that we are hearing that now it could be revisited. So do you think you know, these letting go after trying so hard might deter the fight overall?
You know, for me, first starting with Yaya Bello, the outgoing governor of Kogi State, you see the leadership recruitment process in Nigeria is tragic, terrible, right? He has put his protege there and got his own nephew to be imposed on the new governor Ododo as the chief of staff. Meanwhile, that chief of staff has a file with the EFCC. Do you see where we are? That's a file. It's under investigation by EFCC. He was arrested at a point with one more other person. You know, so you can see the politics of anti-corruption fight in Nigeria. But if EFCC is serious, appointment of the nephew cannot do much. Do you understand what I'm saying? First and foremost, the governors, how do they steal money? They take the money cash. You know, he was talking about using Naira to purchase physical dollar, right? And other currencies, and storing it as value, right? Such money doesn't go through the banks. Do you understand that? But the allocations of all the states, right, pass through the banks. For example, from the consolidated revenue fund, it passes through the CBN, through the commercial banks, and so on and so on. In other words, EFCC can raise a query based on, you know, just account for the money you collected. We want to see each governor account for the money he collected in the 1 time or 2 times stay. You should be able to, in your handover note, analyze all the projects. The projects were paid through banks. You understand what I'm saying? Analyze the projects. We want to be sure that apart from the kickback you got, which we may not be able to trace, because you collected it in physical cash and properties they bought for you in Abuja, Lagos, in choice capitals in Nigeria, and in Dubai, UK, London, here and there. We know this, but I still believe that a part of that money can be recovered if EFCC can be a bit more methodical. You need to get these people to account for the money you gave to them. For example, the local government funds, because of the Jack account, created a very terrible constitutional provision created by the 1999 Constitution, making the governor the chairman of the joint local government state account. That gives the governor direct access to the local government funds. He has to account for it. Because the contemplation of the Constitution is not that the governor will be the one to expend the money meant for local government. So you can see that the governor of a state, as a sub-sovereign, is enjoying the kind of power you would never imagine. Fiscal, political, everywhere. All aspects of the polity within his state he controls. So the EFCC will have to follow the papers. You know, the income of the various states, compel the governors to tell you what happened. This is one level of it. Then you follow the papers. The next major problem Nigeria has is the Nigerian banks. Nigerian banks, cesspool of corruption. That's what they are. They work with these people, even with kidnappers. Because I cannot understand how you remove 50 to 100 million naira cash from a bank and there is no record. The police is not aware, EFCC is not aware. Do you understand what I'm saying? You only read these things on the pages of newspaper. You move such money, But I'm aware that the Money Laundering Act says that once money reaches a certain threshold, you must report to the EFCC. Is that going on? Have you heard of any penalty in this regard? The managing directors of the banks, they leave the system as trillionaires, billionaires. I guess how much was their salary when they were managing directors? Something is seriously wrong with our system. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What we're missing is deterrent for future.
That's what I'm saying. That's what you also call political will. The system, the systemic failure is so massive that it involves and covers and touches all aspects of our national life. The polity is completely rotten. No matter where you come from, do you understand what I'm saying? Because you go to the banks, every day I get alerts, people call me, you send distress, I should send money and all that. And they give bank account details. You, an ordinary innocent Nigerian, will go to open an account. They will collect your passport, collect the phone, everything about you, your data, biometrics and everything, are all collected by these banks. So all these fraudsters that open account with all the banks, not the current online banks, no, the traditional banks, First Bank, all of them. All of them open accounts for these people. How do they collect the money? Do you understand what I'm saying? How did you open the account? How come that victims, when they lodge complaints, that banks are not able to work with the security agencies to track these fraudsters down? Without the banks, there won't be this level of fraud. But the banks are colluding with these people. They open accounts for them, we house the money. Finally, because I see you are rounding off, you see, finally, do you know that a very serious percentage of the cash CBN is looking for is actually with the banks, but not in their papers?
When you say cash, you mean Naira now?
Naira particularly. Okay. Because you hear CBN saying that that they want to mop up. The part of the money you want to mop up is with the banks, but not in their papers. So you can't go to their ledger and find such money. This money is held between these politicians, between this kind of people, and the bank managers. Well, so how do you go about dealing with such a cesspool? It's a very difficult thing. Indeed, but it's not impossible. Let the president develop the political will and they propose something like special courts for corruption. We did it. Special judges for corruption. So any corruption case should not last more than 6 months. You are in jail or you're free. That's a very interesting idea there. Like you said, it's difficult but not impossible. I think if we start to also get persons in the mold of the late Dora Akunyili in such a position where, even though as long as the president has said go ahead, that person can now unleash whatever they want to on all those who have done wrong. And I hope we get that in our current FCC chairman. I pray so. I pray so too. We'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for coming, Dr. The pleasure is mine. All right, that's how we round off the program for today. Don't forget the Polity reaches you live from Abuja every weekday. Join you once again tomorrow for more of politics, governance, and the state of the nation. See you tomorrow. Bye for now. I am Amadin Ogbewe.